Yep, that's my show. Competition.
You're after this?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get done early.
JJ, will you take us out?
I have like a 30-minute slide.
I was gonna say, yeah,
I have a lot of stuff.
and you only have an hour to do it.
Slide for an hour, yes.
You talk fast. So you're 30 minutes.
Oh, I can review 30 hours.
Oh, I know you can.
Perfect.
People online.
Sorry for everyone online. I just messed with the mic. We still have people coming in, so we're going to give them a few more minutes.
I don't know.
This is the most beautiful picture I've ever seen. Where did you get that?
Nice picture.
He's got photo evidence. Did you? Well, I gave you lessons. Thank you. I'm still I just very appreciate
Well, you know,
All right, good morning, everyone. I think we're going to try to get started. So I've got this pulled up. I'm going to have chat open as well on this screen so I can see it. We are now live, both in person here in Kansas City as well as online. I know it's day 2, but I was reminded by the chair of our board of directors, Joey Griesiak, that I have not introduced myself at all at any time. So I'm going to correct that now. I think most of you know me, and if anyone did not and still does not, I do apologize. I am Michael Brooks. I'm the executive director for the National Association of Collegiate Esports. Our national office is here in Kansas City. You know, if you see any one of these blue lanyards, that either means they're an elected officer currently in one of our leadership bodies, NACE, or they work at the NACE national office. And I've been with NACE since before NACE existed, which is not to say a super long time. Started in July 28th, 2016. But we started as the first varsity association in North America. Did I miss anything, Joey? Because you're the one yelling at me. At NACE, I mean, it's a small team. I don't know. Does anyone really know how many staff members actually run NACE? 5. Yes, that is the correct answer. We are a very, very small team. We're a team of 5 individuals. This is actually the greatest number of staff members we've ever had. And we've only gotten to that number this last year. Before that, up until 2019, we were a staff of 2. So very small team, but considering what we've done, packing a punch way above our weight. And I'm happy and proud to see that. My role is primarily to work in 2 different audiences: our leadership with our board of directors, competition council, and our eligibility enforcement committee. That's more internally. Externally, I'm the one primarily responsible with coordinating, establishing partnerships with publishers, with strategic partners of ours. And that's been a big part of how NACE has grown, right? As much as we've been growing as a member organization, the roster of partners we've had is also grown dramatically as well. And we're one of the few orgs to say that our partners continue to want to work with us. You can't really say that anywhere else in esports, let alone collegiate esports. So I think that speaks to something special about this organization. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'd love to. My name is Joey Gariziak. I'm the director and professor of esports at Shenandoah University. I'm also the chair of the board for last year, just completed the first year, as well as this upcoming year. So that is a 2-year appointment, and then the chair-elect will roll on. And yeah, I think that's mine's much shorter than Michael's. We're excited to have this session here because this is something that's, I don't want to say long overdue, but something that's definitely needed in the space, is developing a strategic plan. And we want to share it with you, be able to answer any questions, let you know kind of the path going forward, what our thoughts are. And this is not just Michael putting things down on paper and saying, here's what we're doing. This has gone through a very long process of developing it, reviewing it, voting on it with the entire board of directors. So I'm here to act as a voice of the board and support Michael in what he's about to go over with you, and chime in where I can and answer any questions that you may have. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, so put this together basically, not to go into everything in fine detail, because honestly, that would take a lot more time than we have here at this convention, but to show you the broad strokes and answer any questions that you guys have. The strategic plan portion of this, that was about a half-year endeavor, I think, between outside. Okay, just realized my button isn't working. One moment. Okay, we'll do that instead. So January 18th, 2022, we hired an outside consulting firm to help walk us through this process in terms of creating our first strategic plan over a multi-year time period, as well as reviewing what the association was currently doing and how that matched up with the expectations of our membership. Process of gathering information was multifaceted. So all of you, if you're around in January or February, should remember we pushed out a pretty massive survey to everyone. This was sent via Discord and email to collect feedback, right? What are the most valuable components of NACE to our members today? What are not the valuable elements of NACE to our members? Where does our membership want to see us active in that we're not already active in? And how do they power rank basically what they would prefer to have, right? You can't have everything. So if we had to focus our resources in certain areas, how would you power rank where our resources should be invested? Interview started first off with all of our board members individually, so we can get feedback that isn't influenced by what others might say. And then at the same time, we released a survey to all of membership to get their feedback collectively. And the results were all shown together. There were some important key takeaways from this, some good, some bad. The first bullet point here is your net promoter score. It's NPS, that's what that stands for. Way this functions is basically going to scale from -100 to +100. +100 is fantastic. That means everyone who's ever touched your brand, your org, your company, whatever it might be, is basically now an evangelist for you, right? They are super strong believers. -100 means that this person will go out of the way actively, as it's their life mission, to tell everyone what a bad organization this is. What this tells us is we're sitting right in the middle. It's not good. This is not a score we're proud of. 0 means that we have just as many people who love NACE and are telling other people about it as people are telling people negative things about NACE. As an organization, you typically want to be somewhere in, around +60. That means you have a lot more people who are self-evangelizing on behalf of your brand or your company, in our case, an association, than not. At the same time, and this is good news, 70% of our membership said they were satisfied with the value that they received from membership in NACE. So there's a little bit of a gap there. right? We have a lot more people who are saying, yeah, we get what we expect from NACE, and we're happy with that. And at the same time, if we look at the net promoter score, we see that while they might say that they are satisfied with what they're getting, they're not at a point to where they're going to speak and recommend NACE on the behalf of others. So there is a philosophical gap there somewhere that we're hoping to bridge. When we looked at the things that members said were important to them, basically competition, governance, and the association being member-led were the three most valuable aspects based upon the survey responses that people saw when they thought of NACE. Oh, do you want to say something?
Good job.
Some other key takeaways, right? If we broke out the various components of NACE, and this was a long bullet point list, right? We asked people to power rank what they saw as their highest scoring elements, or what they would rate their highest scoring elements of NACE. And this is exactly 1 through 4 right here. Staff responsiveness was number 1. Student experience was number 2. Competition was number 3. And membership diversity being number 4. So of all the aspects of NACE that you could write down and put into a category, these are what members who responded said they saw as the most, the highest ratings of what they would say. On the flip side, on the lowest scoring elements of NACE, there were 3 ones that we identified where there's common consensus of a low value. Website, which is our naceesports.org, which is a very old website. I 100% agree with this. It needs a lot of work. Student development and student recruitment were areas that basically the responses said we don't see anything here. So it's not a positive. It's like there's nothing here for us. And this is interesting when we start looking at what our members are telling us to do for them as an association, because there's some overlap here. Part of the strategic planning process was a simple SWOT analysis. I say simple, it wasn't simple when we went through it, but because it gathered a lot of people's input. And I know this is hard to tell from if you're here in person because of the screen. If you're online, you probably have a better chance of reading this. Strengths, this is just the feedback, so it's not really organized under buckets here. But the structure of NACE and its competition fits the needs of varsity programs. Another thing about varsity play, community, the relationship between individuals and institutions, knowledgeable staff, membership gets more value than they pay for, reputation for helping institutions start esport programs, activating membership to a common cause, the mission of NACE, the size of NACE, reputation for being a leader in collegiate esports, leading quality competition. I'm just reading down the list, guys. And these are, I think it's important to point out, everything I'm sharing here is a copy and paste from the actual survey responses. It was not worded by us. Weaknesses, communication with members, social media, email, Discord, public facing, consistency on timing. Weaknesses, the divisions needed a clear separation, support for established programs, lack of a head count, that was referring to staff, board overly involved in operations. That was
We're working on it.
Branding, website needs work, onboarding of new members, professional development, limited resources, and further explain staffing, dollars, expertise, a relationship with publishers, public relations. By the way, so this is people's their thoughts on like what is a strength, what is a weakness, and you're going to see some conflicts here because under weakness you see relationship with publishers, but that's also a strength at the same time. So it's people's members' perceptions. Opportunities, high school recruitment pipelines, partnership with CSL has been good so far. You can tell by the name where this was dated because CSL is now Playfly Esports. Professional development, partnering with good actors to provide additional value, providing turnkey solutions to institutional problems. Competitors are bleeding cash. Involving the whole of membership, partnering with athletic conferences. NACE is the only org that is positioned to function like a union on behalf of institutions, a home for varsity programs. And then of threats, of course, public relations, traditional athletic bodies, specifically saying the NCAA and conferences. Competitors with much more money can exist quickly. Publishers, other esport orgs, member retention, voice org. So again, I just ran through that to give you an idea of generally what we saw, what our members are seeing when they think of NACE and its place in the industry.
No, I think I just want to reiterate what Michael has saying, not just on this slide, but the previous ones. Like, this is all feedback directly from membership. So from you all, and we know we send out a lot of surveys sometimes, but that feedback is incredibly valuable and beneficial as we're developing things like a strategic plan, so that we can hear what are the things that we need to work on as a member association to continue to move forward in a positive way. You saw the numbers. I mean, we're at a 0 right now. We need to be closer to that 20, 30, even up to the 60s, kind of the goal. And we need help understanding how to get there. And so the feedback that Michael's talking about, I don't know if this is any of Michael's thoughts directly. This is literally from surveys from membership.
None of this came from me.
None of it's from Michael. He's just kind of the messenger, and gets to compile all this, and then we can figure out what that path forward is, directly related to the feedback that we get. That's why it's so important that we get that feedback, and on a continuous basis. We'll continue reviewing the feedback we get, the directions we're going in. So sorry kind of for all the surveys, but we really do need that feedback. So please keep providing that feedback as we move forward to make sure we are continuing to get that voice from our membership. But it looks like a lot, and it is a lot. And we've got some really good plans going forward that I think Michael's about to get into.
Yeah. The other interesting component is as part of this process, we asked the board of directors to envision what their idea of a successful NACE looks like within 3 to 5 years, which means everyone probably had a little bit of a different idea. And then we asked, what is their confidence level individually of NACE achieving that vision? And it's fairly high on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not a chance in hell, to 10 being it's a for sure thing. It was a 7.625, which I thought was actually pretty good. That's a pretty high score, especially from the people on our board who are privy to all information, and then knowing what we have today, where we're going, and seeing, can we get to their vision of NACE in that time frame? It's a pretty high response rate.
And it's not like we just all gave really high numbers to give high numbers. There are some very opinionated people on the board that are very transparent about their thoughts. And so I agree with Michael, that score is a positive thing going forward.
Just want to make sure this is still popping up for our online friends. There we go. So when we went back, we basically identified 4 very specific pillars for the association. This is where any project planning that takes place, it will all match up to one of these 4 elements. First off is competition. I think everyone understands why that's important to NACE. It's the aspect of our association that receives the most attention. It's where most of our members are impacted. It's where at this point in time, our surveys are telling us we're providing the most value is competition on a day-to-day basis. Looking at some of the tactics to support these pillars, we have, and this is not an exhaustive list. This is just some of the bigger ones, but tiers of competition, offering full statistics. And then if we look down below, we start with non-dues revenue. We have sponsorships being the primary driver of that. Membership, we have that broken down into 3 areas on this screen. Developing a member program toolbox, developing regional conferences, and then, of course, we heard everyone loud and clear on a new website. And then program services, we're looking at code of conduct, a recruitment and transfer online portal to streamline that and make that more transparent. And then the last component there being an external review offered to member programs. To specify on that, that's basically allowing outside people to go to your campus, see what your program looks like, offer ways to get it to where the school wants to go. But it's basically like a a team that gets deployed on your campus and try to get you to where you want to go. And I think that, yeah, that's it right now. We wanted to open this up to questions. There is quite a lot here. I tried to bring it to a level where you can kind of digest the information quickly, but we are here to answer any questions that you might have.
First, JJ, first. Second of all, can you introduce the other people of NACE? Like that man? I don't know who he is.
No, why do you do this to me? All right. Yeah, absolutely.
Hi guys,
JJ.
I'm JJ. For those that don't know me, I've spoken to most of you probably. I'm the director of competition for NACE. I sort of oversee all of the competition that happens within NACE and NACE Star League. I report directly to the CC and the board.
Where did you come from, JJ, before NACE?
Here we go. Thanks, Danielle. So I was a coach at 2 different member institutions. Previously, I was at ECPI University in Virginia Beach, and I was at Hawkeye Community College. I was a NACE member for about 3 years before I got picked up to be a staffer.
So in this room, there are 2 others who have a big part on the NACE team. I don't see Michael Torres in here or Ashley Jones, but they're also big parts of the team. I want to point out that all of our staff, with the exception of me, come from initially NACE member institutions. There's not a single one of them that doesn't know what it's like to be a coach or an esports director at a program on campus, building it up themselves. They are people who have done exactly what you guys do, have maybe gone a little bit further than you have in terms of your lifespan, building an esports program on your campus. I think that makes us very special. Like it's not people who are going to BS you about what it looks like or how it should work. It's people that go like, yeah, that was tough. Here's what we did, or here's what I did. That's a very unique perspective that we think is pretty special with NACE. So I do want to turn around and open up to questions on the strategic plan, where NACE is going, what the feedback of membership looks like. It's really open for you guys to ask any questions that you would like. I do not promise I have all the answers, but we do have a pretty comprehensive plan on what we want to do in this next, what was that, 1 to 3 years? Yeah, everything's broken down on that time scale. Yeah, I'll repeat the question so that people online.
From the survey, how many schools responded versus?
Yeah, survey responses, I think we got to 60 something and change. So a little bit over 25% people actually responded on the survey. Would prefer it to be higher, obviously, but it was enough to be statistically significant. That was a good question, though. I don't know if I repeat. The question was, how many schools responded to the survey? I am sorry. I said I would do it, and then I immediately did not.
Can you clarify conferences? Is it like a convention like this, or do you mean a competition?
Thank you. So repeat the question is, was asking for clarification on this slide. When we look at regional conferences, are we talking about regionalized events like the national convention, or are we talking about competitive conferences, right? I think was your question. The answer is both, actually. There's not necessarily a reason you'd separate them out. And we are already looking to regionalize in-person play to provide more in-person opportunities to compete. The convention aspect of that is actually more or less built around student recruitment and professional development at this point, less bylaw type stuff. Is there any other questions? Oh. I'll repeat the question online. It'll save you.
How many member institutions are there now, and how many people have?
Yeah. So member institutions right now. Thank you. The question was, how many member institutions of NACE are there right now? This is my chair, guys. The question was, how many member institutions of NACE do we have right now? And what is my goal or the association's goal on that? So right now we're at what, 211? JJ was, I think, the last count. Okay, 217. It's going up by the day, but that makes sense. We're in July. It's when the fiscal year turns over. Where do we want to be? So I think this is more of a strategic question, and I'll answer it from kind of my perspective as the executive director. I think it, as an industry, is critically important that the fractured space of collegiate esports coalesces, comes together. It is incredibly detrimental with the current size of the space to have so many different orgs doing their own thing. We're the biggest, but let's be honest, it's a big fish in a little tiny pond. When we look at the entire collegiate landscape, if we compare it to athletics, esports is super insignificant in comparison, size-wise. I do think we have the biggest opportunity, though. So for NACE, and I think this can look a lot of different ways, and I'm open to it. I think our board's open to it, but is to act as that roof that everyone can operate and live under. That doesn't mean we're absorbing conferences. We work with athletic conferences now. We don't take them over or anything like that. We just provide the structure for them to operate and play like they would want to, but it's part of a larger system. And that system all moves in the same direction, right? From conference play to playoffs to national championships. If we're talking about competition, if we're talking about rule sets, having that unanimous and aligned across the entire board, working with publishers on licensing, there's a lot that we can do much more effectively if we're all under the same kind of jurisdiction when we talk about a roof that covers multiple organizations. And that's where I think it is going. We're going to see in the next year, many of the current collegiate groups are not going to exist. Their financial situation is not good for a majority of them. Some are very lucky and they're in a better position, but that's a handful compared to the majority. So I think we're going to see outside external forces force kind of a coalescing anyways. My role is to make sure NACE is the one that's leading that charge. So everyone and anyone is the question. Yeah, I want them all to be members in one way or another. There was another question towards the back, or a hand raised.
Just Ethan Wingard, St. Francis. I was just curious, that last bullet point, external review member program, possible like audit survey or consultancy.
Yeah. Joey, do you want to talk about this? Or I certainly can.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I remember it very clearly because, thank you. The question was external review of member programs. What does that mean really? And you're right, it is deploying basically a group to go in there and advise schools about their specific situation. So, and really evaluate them. So this is done in athletics, done for student development theory, where basically outside groups come in and they audit, right? And that's what they're doing. Like literally what we're talking about is auditing a program to discover where it's weak, where it's strong at, provide solutions on getting it to a better position. That is a thing we're positioned to do, but we haven't been doing. If any of you are new NACE members and you can remember your first talk with Ashley Jones, for instance, we basically just give you a bunch of information. We'll kind of walk you through what information is in what document, but that's where we kind of stop. We might make intros to other schools around you that are similar size, and maybe a little bit further down the road in terms of their development. But we don't really consult, and we did that kind of intentionally because we didn't feel like it was our position to tell a school how their esports program had to look. But we have enough data right now and enough institutions, we have enough best practices now that we can take on a much more hands-on role if it's requested by the school. This is not something where we're going to go and try to deploy ourselves at a school and say, "Oh, you're doing everything wrong." This is really a school's asking for help. And we're going to, as an association, going to invest resources to try to get them to a healthy position. Did I answer your question? Okay. We don't have a cool code name for it yet, but we'll develop that, Project Voltron or something. I know there was another hand in the back, and I don't know if that question was already answered or if the hand's gone. Okay. So for us, our strategic plan is about a 3-year timeline. Everything that we looked at in terms of tactics, and there's a bunch more besides these, but these are, I think, some of the more main ones, will fit within a 1 to 3 year. So either it's going to take us 1 year, 2 year, 3 years to get it done. Some of it we've already been developing, especially around competition. Next session after this is going over, that's led by JJ. We'll be actually going over the competitive changes. We've shared a lot of this online already. Anyone remembers, we did a really cool British voiceover actor guy who did a kind of a review of the structural changes. I don't think we'll be playing that video for you today. No, JJ said he took that out. But part of that was related to the strategic review, right? We looked at the divisions of play. We saw the feedback that it wasn't clear, didn't quite match up with what schools wanted to, which is the competitive experience. That was the answer, right? Like top varsity play, great, fantastic, but that's a team per esport. I've got 2 other Rocket League teams that are not having a good experience because they're getting beat up on, right? They're losing most matches, they're getting disheartened. And that's not really the point. We want to be able to have everyone have a place to compete, to have a successful or competitive season, I should say. And that is exactly the feedback that led to some of the other divisions being developed, which we're actually going to be executing on for this next coming academic year. JG, I am not stealing your thunder. This is public information. I'm going to look at some of the questions online. I did promise I would.
Hello, James Llewellyn from Kaiser University, Pembroke Pines. So I know in the past we talked about like Discord and developing the NACE Discord. I'm wondering if the NSL Discord, previously CSL Discord, if do we have ownership over that Discord now, or is it still PlayFi in charge of that? And are we looking to still develop our Discord more as that, Discord's life for us? So.
Yeah. Yes, Discord is life for many of us. The answer to your question and the question itself was, what are we going to do with the NACE Discord? And what can we do, I think, with the NACE Star League Discord server? I'll answer your first question as it relates to the NACE Discord server. That one, there's a quite a detailed project on rebuilding that. I'll be transparent on the NACE Discord. It's basically a Frankenstein right now. It's been something that's been developed with widgets and things added on to it as we've done new things or went in different directions since we formed in 2016. It just needs to be cleaned up and reorganized so it's a little bit more clear for members. So yes, it's going to be cleaned up quite a bit, and we're adding a few more bots to try to streamline things. For the NACE Star League server, that one is ran by Playfly Esports, although we do have access to it. We try to keep competitive questions from our members with the ability to directly talk to NACE staff on the NACE Discord, but they could also use the NACE Star League Discord server. It goes to the same people at the end of the day. There's a whole ops team that literally works together on everything. So either way works. But if you just like in terms of better touch and feel, having a NACE staff member be the first person to respond to you, that is the NACE Discord server. But on the NACE Star League side, we can heavily influence things if we want to see changes. Again, this is a partnership that is meant specifically for NACE Star League competition. And if you have suggestions on ways to improve that, all you have to do is let a NACE staff member know, and we'll take it from there. Did that answer your question, James? By the way, James is chair of our EEC, so works very closely on a lot of this stuff. You are in a position to very easily voice anything you want to see change.
Jason Gooding, University of Michigan Flint. Have you looked at leveraging students that are involved in esports now to help
with some of the duties within the program or within the NACE entity, as far as students that are going into the esports as a career, for schools that already have like an esports management degree, or like something like what Joey has, or something what we're bringing online, to give our students almost like internship roles, but give them that real world experience that can build those resumes. Because for me, the competition is fun, but I'm looking for ways to better my students as a person and educationally. That's first and foremost for me. But to give them experience, whether it's helping with a Discord channel, or it's helping with member recruitment, or just some of the daily tasks that's now in the esports world. Has that been a consideration at all?
Yeah.
Or are you open to it?
Yeah, more than open to it. Did you have something to add, JJ?
So the majority, if not all of the admins that work under me and Curtis are from schools.
Yep.
The majority of our TOing staff is from schools. So we're already giving them some of these roles, and I know that Michael could touch on this more, but we've talked about adding additional responsibilities and additional avenues and stuff like that to get student workers involved.
Yeah, to answer your question, so that's the student worker side. Any student that does any work that's attached to NACE or NACE Star League is paid. We don't have any unpaid positions whatsoever. And we'd like that. We want to make sure people are paid for the work they do, as well as gaining valuable experience as they move professionally forward. On the internship question, so that is something that we're exploring now, like actually developing the structure there. That's at the national office, and those will be paid internships as well. Some questions on structure, like are we have to do any college credit here? If so, with who, what that looks like. But that it will be the first wave of student internships with the national office. Up to this point, we haven't offered any other internship programs at the national office. So that's all one side of it. The other side is some of our partners. You're getting an early announcement, will be a much better announcement, but Slipstream, Stay Plugged In, both new partners of the association, both as part of those agreements, they've budgeted aside internship staff dollars specifically for students at NACE member institutions. And that trend's going to continue with additional partners, corporate partners that we sign on board, because we saw it as value and it helps extend the professional experience, right? Which direction do you want to go as a student to different companies and different segments of the industry. And that's something that I think is pretty cool, and something fairly unique that we're doing as an association, right? But that's coming up. So like I kind of blew the announcement there by telling you that. But I did want to answer your question. Like that's absolutely what we want to do. And it doesn't always have to be on a campus or at an esports org. There's many different companies that touch upon the esports industry that want those students as well.
To add on a little bit, so just so you all know, the board does an annual review of Michael Brooks, as well as quarterly reviews with feedback from the EEC and the Comp Council. And we just did our annual review last week with Michael, and this exact thing came up where we said, hey, let's think about the internship program. And so I told Michael, I am more than happy to help develop that internship program and develop those opportunities, because I'm right with you. I'm exactly in your shoes. Let's find those opportunities. And so that was something that we have identified that very quickly after this conference, we're going to start working on those initiatives to find more internship opportunities and student opportunities within the association and the partners in the association. So 100% yes, we're going to make it happen. And if you've got ideas or want to help with that, we will absolutely look for outside help with developing those kind of ideas and internships.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Noted.
The dangerous thing about volunteering in NACE is that it's always taken. Like we've never turned away help on any subject. There is a question online from Karen over at DeSales. It seemed like one of the areas for growth was obviously the website, but the other two were student related. So let me go back here actually. Which pillar on this slide is intentionally supporting for student representation and affinity? So that if you're asking about the student related components on the low end, which is these two bullet points right here, student development and student recruitment. If you're asking what pillar that's under, that is under program services, where we're seeing professional development. All right, Karen told me I'm correct. Okay, thank you, appreciate that. But yeah, that's the pillar where those fall under. I will mention this. So for NACE, it has been trying to figure out what its priority is. And what that means is like, what does membership expect and want from us? That's always directs where we go. That's why those surveys are important. Initially, when NACE was formed, the schools didn't necessarily care about the competition element. What they wanted was to see the varsity space developed. They were much more interested in professional development, legislation, rule sets, those elements, because that was what was needed back in 2016, 17, 18. As we grew in size and as our programs became more mature, there was a shift and more of a demand to focus on competition, which we had a few, stumbles on trying to get the right platform, especially going. I think we finally found something that's pretty exciting and moves us much further ahead of anyone else in the space. But that's what I mean, right? The membership directs what the primary interest of the association is. And as that interest shifts, we're going to shift along with it. So now the question is, competition seems to be good, but the question we've seen from some members, especially on the survey results, was have we overly focused now on competition, and we're now have lost sight of some of that professional development, the industry kind of uplifting elements of the association. And after a long, many hours of meetings with the board, we realized, we need to get back to that to a degree. We are not a tournament operator. That's an element of what we do, but that is not why we were created to begin with. So we're going back intentionally to look at professional development in a real way. That's why we have a lot of the changes here, is to bring us back in a place where we can execute on that effectively.
And competition is still a major, you can see.
Yeah, competition is not going away.
Right? It is
But,
still a big component.
The responses on surveys saying, is NACE only wanting to do competition now? Like, that struck a lot of people. Like, it's not the intent. That was never the intent. But it was striking to see that was a perception of some of our members. And I think kind of a time that allowed us to refocus on what's important. Not to say competition is important. It is, but it's not the only priority for us.
Right. Diversifying the offerings that we have beyond just the competition, while keeping that as a core element of what NACE has to offer. And you see in the legislative sessions, you've seen some things come through that directly address where we've seen the weaknesses, in particular the student development side of things. So a lot of this is already in the works, and we're trying to get out in front of the feedback we've heard. And the tactics, like Michael said, these are just some of the tactics. This is not an exhaustive list. It is a much longer list. And we're still developing a lot of the KPIs for those tactics as we go. So this is the strategic plan is very much a living document that continues to evolve as we go. And these are just, some of the examples, with competition as one of those main pillars, and then diversifying those offerings beyond that competition as something we are trying to get into more and find where NACE can offer things that other associations cannot, while keeping competition a core element.
Hey, Karen, I saw your question. Did want to address it. And Joey actually addressed it a little bit as well. You're asking, well, where is student services on this? This is not what you're seeing here, is not the exhaustive list. There's like 50 other tactics that aren't listed here. These are just the ones I thought were some of the more visually important ones. So the student development programming, you're not seeing it here because I'm just not showing it on this slide, but it is definitely on the list. Sorry, I'm trying to bring up your point again, Karen, because I lost it in the chat. Oh, you're welcome. That was less impressive than I hoped there. Is there any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and take a break, grab some coffee, use a restroom. The next session is incredibly important, though. That is competition. And I know there's been a lot of questions, and that is good because the structure has changed. I think it's improved. It's based upon our member feedback. I think it provides more opportunities, keeps NACE competition kind of sanctified, right, with the other NACE members, which I know with the 1 year initial deal with Playfly was a concern, right? Like, are we going to dilute what it means to be NACE or what it means to be a varsity program? This is the answer to that. And I think a lot of people will be quite pleased. That's what I expect, though. You guys prove me wrong. But yeah, next session, incredibly important. We do have other, let me grab this real quick. Just to make sure members also know, you can always go to the next room over if you see a session that's of interest there as well. The only thing I'll ask is please show up for voting during our NACE business meeting from was that 3 to 5 p.m. That is critically important. First off, we want to make quorum as always, but secondly, every institutional vote matters. There are some important proposals up for debate and of course voting this year. And I think it's important that everyone gets a say. That includes our online members right now. Everyone will be voting together in real time, whether you're in person or online. So please be there for that. Do not miss that. That's what I got, guys. If there's no more questions, I'll let you go. Yep, we're good. I'm gonna. All right, thank you, everyone. We'll get the next session here started in a moment.